Welcome to another episode of Winning for Life. And today we will have a focus, I guess, mainly what body life is. And my guest today is Arlette Godges, and she is for 35 years a kind of, I would say, a physical therapist, whether that's a history, but she is also very active in sports, professional, swimming, and she changed a little bit also the focus on what she's doing, looking for elderly people. So I'm for sure a lot very, very keen to learn more, because aging is not just a simple sickness or what most doctors treat us. You need to live with it. She says, no, we can do a lot to be fit the whole life, ideally, if we're not really have a big sickness. So I'm very interested to understand more. And so, welcome, Arlette. Great to have the time, and really, really curious. As a lifelong competitive athlete, you said, you're not just thinking in winning, but also in preventing pain and learn to handle the body and bring the body to an optimum. So if you please share what is your story, what it changed, maybe just from competing also to training and then helping other people.
Okay, that's a very loaded question, and thank you for having me on your show today. I'm really excited. I actually just finished a podcast myself in Scotland, so that's why I'm in Europe, and it's nice to connect with you. I am a lifelong athlete. I was an athlete in college. I swam Division I in the United States. I went there for swimming to go to college, because at the time it wasn't really a thing to be able to go to college and train at that level. Unfortunately, I did have an accident leading up to the Olympics in 1984. So that crushed that dream, but I stayed competitively in swimming all my life. I still am. I'm a competitive master swimmer. I competed in the Doha, Qatar World Championships this past February and won 2 golds and 2 silver. I just set a world record with my team in the 200 medley relay a few weeks ago in California. I live in California. I am Swiss by birth, grew up in Switzerland, but now have lived in the United States for 40 some years. I am a physical therapist. And in the United States, that's a master's degree. It's a little bit different than it is in Europe. We're a little bit more integrated into the true medical system. And we look at scans, we look at medications, we look at all kinds of different things. So it's a bit more medical, as well as what you traditionally might think about physical therapy. So that's been my profession. I've always had, obviously, a keen interest in optimal mobility and prevention of injuries. When I turned 50, that's now 10 years ago, I just turned 60, I had a very clear realization that the world in the medical profession is not equipped and is not at all prepared for this massive amount of people that are aging well. And their goals are to continue to age well, to continue to do the things that they're doing, whether it is a competitive athletic event, whether it's athletics for fun, whether it's athletics for fitness so you can go travel and you don't stumble over cobblestones, whether it's chasing your grandkids or a ball, it doesn't really matter. But I don't like to hear people say, oh, I'm too old to ski, or I'm too old to go down a black diamond when I'm skiing, or, that golf course is too long for me, I need to get a golf cart, or I can't take care of my grandchildren because I can't bend down and pick them up. So I decided when I turned 50 that, I always said, before turning 50, my friends gave me a hard time. I said, your health bank is as important as your bank account. And whatever you put into your health bank prior to turning 50 pays you back dividends that are just incredible. If you've never smoked, if you're in shape and you're not sick when you turn 50, you will be so much better off going into that decade. However, though, that said, it's never too old to start. And, having moved through my 50s and now in my 60s, I decided that I needed to find ways to optimize my health between 50 and 60 in a different paradigm than what was prescribed or normal or status quo, because those things did not really work. Being a woman, of course, turning 50, between 50 and 60, you have a whole other thing to deal with that the other half of the population doesn't have to deal with, and that's menopause. And, I knew I wasn't going to navigate that in the traditional sense because it doesn't do that well. And so I've learned a lot. I founded my business. It's called Age Up Well. And I have combined in my private practice all of the things that I've learned over the last 10 years, both by trial and error, both by doing it and seeing that it worked, but thirdly, also by getting more education. And I took a whole course during the pandemic at MIT on neurophysiology and neuroscience, and have applied a lot of those things also to my work. So that's kind of a summary of what I do.
Very interesting. First of all, it's interesting that you're not using these standard words like anti-aging, because anti is not the good. I guess we want to have a high number in age, and you say age up well. So I'm interested in what you mean with age up. Age well, I guess it's easy to understand, or even we can have different meanings with this. And I guess we are on the same page saying, okay, the chronological age is not that important. It's more the biological or the mental age. So when you just said, okay, you studied at MIT also, it's so much more how the system is working, brain is working. So it's a mixture of cell set and mindset, I guess.
Correct. I find that really an interesting peanut that you picked out there, because yes, I do not use anti-aging, and I also don't like the word lifespan. So those are two words that I try not to use. I do replace them by aging up, and I'll explain why. And I also like the word health span, because it's very important that we have a very healthy, long health span where we can do the things we want to do. And ideally, nobody's going to live forever. But ideally, we live really well and at an optimal level until we don't. And then it's a very quick descent, as opposed to this slow, lingering 20, 30-year decline that leaves us ailing and not well. Aging up well, or age up well, comes from the point of being an athlete. So when you are an athlete, you age up. So after 5 years, there's a different age category, and you age up into that age category.
Okay.
And that's where this is coming from. So it's a play on words, and it's the name of my business. And it was a very fitting play on words for me, because I age up well every 4 years, or I try to age up well every 4 years, and or every 5 years. And the same happens when you're a kid and you're 15, you age up every 2 years. So it's a play on words that way. And I thought it was very fitting because, people talk about the different age groups and the different decades of life. And it fits with my thinking and my model of how I work with people as well. If I have a client, I have a couple clients right now that are in their mid-70s, and they went on a prolonged trip to Europe last year or earlier this year. And they noticed that when they were in Paris, they had a really hard time walking on the cobblestones, and their balance wasn't so great anymore. And they had really declined a very critical amount from one year to the next. These things sneak up on you. And so they asked me, this is not traditional. You don't go to the doctor with this and say, you know what, my balance isn't quite as good this year as it was last year. I'm falling more when I'm skiing, or I don't feel so comfortable walking cobblestones in Paris. That's typically not a complaint people go to the doctor with. But it's a very real thing, because these things sneak up to us year over year, and they accelerate quicker as we get older. And so I thought it was really magnificent that they called me and they said, what can you do with us? And I have drastically changed their balance and their confidence and their strength to be able to very confidently go and do whatever they want to do. I just got a message back from them that they were at a wedding in Colorado, and they were able to hike and walk and do a lot of things that maybe, had they not worked with me, it would have been more difficult for them to do. So it's as much, it is actually preventing the slips and the downfalls that we might get confronted with. And, for me, in the forefront of that stands maintaining muscular strength, muscle mass, because that is also your most important prevention of diabetes. Diabetes haunts a lot of people in older age. It is not necessarily tied to diet. It can happen to thin and fit people. It is really a miscommunication at a cellular level. And so, but it can run havoc. So we want to make sure we prevent that. So anyway, so that's my age up well.
Okay, thank you for understanding. It's interesting when you come from sport with age up, we always say level up or upgrade your life. And I do it somehow with topics in life. If you grow older and then you have different topics than you should do in the 20s and the 60s is different. And we talked also, and that's just want to put just before I'm more asking what you do with your clients, that there's a lifespan is not that most important, even if it is at the moment with all the biohacking also, can we live to 180 and 200? But the modern science, I think, says already that we can be 120 to 150 as we are built like this. But it's our lifestyle, like you said, and myself, I didn't put enough on the health bank account in the 50s, 60s. So I have not a lot to take. But I see also there's a lot of surveys asking people how long you want to live, and they say, no, not so long. But if you ask again, it's not just about the lifespan, it's just the fear of suffering, what they say. Oh, no. And years ago, I saw from the Canadian Heart Association a video comparing an old guy who was living with grandchildren and who was in the hospital, and say the average in the Western world is already 10 years, and what kind of special care they end because, we didn't pay in the account. Or the mindset also, you need to live with it, or I need to accept it.
True. I think you bring up some interesting points there, Wolfgang. It's what is our example? What has our example been? And that goes back to my very early comment. This is a population of people that we haven't really seen. When I was growing up, when my grandparents were 65, 70, they were old. Yes. When my parents have done well in aging, into their late 70s, early 80s, and are starting to decline at this point. So that's already better, especially a generation that grew up in the Netherlands in World War II, was born right in the thick of the war. So those things definitely set you up and do play with your DNA. I think, though, now the Western world, we are coming into our 60s, 70s, and 80s in a very different way. And of course, there's a big dichotomy also in Europe and in the United States, where you have people that hit 60 not so healthy, and the big pharma companies are very, very alert and are very omnipresent to give you a pill for this and give you a pill for that. I have seen patients that have taken upwards of 35 pills a day. And, that almost takes a full-time job to manage that and the side effects of those. So we have that on one side, but now we also have this other half of the population that is really trying to age well and is trying to stay fit and active. And what needs to be understood on that level, because our efforts in medicine are to take care of the people that are sick and are within the big pharma industries and are using all those products. But we have this other half of the population, like you and I, of people that really want a long life. I don't know if I want to be 200, but I want to have a long, fulfilled life where I can interact with people, where I can meet new people, where I can continue to grow in what I do, and where I can physically do the things that I like to do. Now, that doesn't mean I need to go skiing and ski. Well, I still do ski morning to night, but if it's a nice powder day, but I might not go off the cliffs. I might only do that once with my son, and not like I did 15 years ago all morning long. So it is about, you do change as we get older, but we still try to stay fit and strong and make that a priority in our life. And so the population needs to understand that there are ways to do that. And as a little bit of a joke, but not really, I did it with a group of friends. I invited them to partake last year. And the idea was, I'm turning 60 training for 80. And I think that's a concept to look at. How do I keep myself fit and strong, balanced, coordinated, sharp in my mind, and healthy, and my immune system strong? How do I do that well enough so not only that I get another birthday, but I'm actually staving off a disease or an illness or a fall?
Now you say, keep what I have or what I'm capable at the moment, especially in your life as a athlete, and you say we always want to be faster or jump higher or whatever. Is there actually a limit what we can achieve? Now we had just the Olympics in Paris, and the 100 meters runner are not so much faster than 100 years ago. Is there a limit, or are we limiting ourselves like this with the 4 minutes on the mile running, and that suddenly we got it and more people were running faster themselves? Did we ever really explore how fit we could be?
That's such a great question. And I ponder that often because, now you're going into a whole piece of where my learning has been over the last 10 years. And it led me straight down a path into cell biology. So my background originally in my university training was in physiology. And so I went right back to cell biology and really took a deep dive into that. And there is a lot of science that is relatively new on redox signaling cell biology. And about 7 years ago or so, it was when I started looking into this, there were about 18,000 science articles in the PubMed, which is the scientific bank of articles, of research articles in the United States. And now there's over 60,000 and growing every day. And so this redox science has really taken on a whole other level. And it has to do with how well our cells signal and how well our cells maintain health, and also how well they regenerate and how healthy they can do that. As we age, the consensus is that about every decade of life after we turn 20, we lose about 10% of the signal capacity of our cells. So by the time we're 60, that is the definition of wrinkles. That is the definition of we're not growing muscle fibers as strong or tensile strength of tendons as much as we used to. And that is the definition of that. It's the definition of our hair getting gray, unless you color it. And maybe our vision not being so great. But there are products. There's especially one product that's ultimately patented, that's available in 34 countries that I've been working with, that actually reinstates those molecules into your body. And I think it has shown amazing results in some very, very deep research. So that's one thing. So when you talk about what is the potential that we could do, it is directly related to how healthy our cells are, how many mitochondria are firing at the highest amount, how many mitochondria we have, how we get rid of waste. And a lot of that has to do with proper supplementation, decreasing toxicity in our cellular structure, and, having a well-balanced diet, as well as exercising and moving. And that said, I enjoy a glass of wine. I am not a cuckoo eater. I eat a normal diet, but I stay away from preservatives. I've never smoked, so that's a plus. But I'm relatively normal. When I get on a plane, I just get the normal food and I'm happy with it.
So if I understand it right, you believe there is a chance because we listen to just old science that we have really at least something still to discover, that we could be so much more fit in general. And what you mentioned with the redox, Deepak Chopra in his last book from this year, Quantum Body, he mentioned also page 280 something, that we are now finding out how important redox signaling is. So we're just at the edge of discovering more and more, like what we learned from Einstein. That's the space-time continuum. Today we know that's not all. We can go deeper and discover more. So
yeah, we have a lot of opportunity for growth there, and I think it's an extremely exciting place to be. So we do, I think it's important. We don't know where our potential is when we were younger, but again, going back to the crux of where I stand with my work is, we don't know. We don't have a measuring stick for what people can do 50 plus, 60 plus, 70 plus. And I see some crazy things when I go to these swim competitions. I see people in the 70s and 80s doing unbelievable things. And, it might be one or two that really stand out, but there's many that do really, really well. And the same holds true for people that do track and field or are hiking. I just hiked the West Highland Way in Scotland, 96 miles in 6 days last week. And I met a lot of people of all ages and from all over the world. And their stories are remarkable. And it was extremely exciting to hear their attitudes and their frustrations with the normal medical science, because they're like, nobody really knows what I can do. There's even still, standard medicine sometimes still tells people, you're a little bit older, you need more rest, you should sit down more, you should rest.
Yeah. And that is for sure. I can, it's also my case, a lot of health problems, and I don't want to get rid of my responsibility, but I believed a lot of so-called white gods, or gods in white, and a lot of problems I have because of that. And it's not only that it got wrong treatments, but also the wrong mindset with that and overcoming it. So when you say, well, okay, we have not really a clue yet how to develop the body when we are, let's say, young, 20 to 50, but when someone didn't pay in the bank account, like in my case, and it says, oh, what is then possible? Okay, if I can the next 20 years till 90 be like this, I had the idea, okay, that would be good if you're not go weaker, but it's not really a thing I'm dreaming of. So how young I can grow, even if I'm 70 already and not a sports person before.
Well, I think I think most people are in that boat, right? That is people who are interested in this and come to it. It's usually not when they're 35. It is exactly like a real bank account. If you start saving for your retirement when you're 24, 25, 26, you will be at a very different place than if you did not do that. However, it doesn't mean that you can't
Wait,
start.
just a question. Yeah, a question. I wrote a book, Millionaire Spirit, and I have a kind of, if you start early to pay in the bank account and you have 30, 40, 50 years till retirement, then you can every month put a little amount in. But
Right.
if you're 50, 60 and you want to have a special financial goal and not the time, you not just need to put more effort in. Would you say that is the same?
It's exactly the same. So your dividends are hugely more. That's why I said whatever happens before 50, because you get a lot more bang for your buck, so to speak. But it doesn't mean that you can't start at, 58 and 3/4 in 2 hours or 71 in 2 days. It really doesn't matter. It is about starting. And you start with what you have. And that is exactly when I work with my clients and my patients who are really all over the world. I work with them. I meet them where they are. And we go through a whole, list of things that are not just physical. That's usually where I start, because the number one thing I want people to do is to move. And with that said, I want them to do something that they really like to do, because they're going to have to do some things that they don't like. Usually, people that don't have good balance, they really don't want to do balance exercises. But you got to find an activity you like to do, because otherwise you're not going to do it. And then it really goes back to basics. You have to build a habit. And a habit can't be built when you get really gung-ho and you say, oh, I'm going to start tomorrow. I'm going to spend 5 hours because I'm retired and I'm going to do this every day. That will not work at all. You need to combine it with other things, with other habits. I have people doing exercises when they brush their teeth. I have them doing exercises while the coffee is cooking, all kinds of different things. I come up with all types of hacks so that they are getting their coordination and their balance, for example, in. Also, just pure strengthening. I'm a person that is about less is more. So I do a lot of combination type exercises, because I know that from my patients when I work with them, I never ever give them more than 3 exercises. But maybe, I give them 3 exercises on Monday when they have a total knee replacement, for example. And on Friday, I give them 3 different exercises and I move them forward that way. Because if I give them a whole list, it's a laundry list. And guess what they do with that list?
Yeah.
They take it and they throw it in the trash. So I don't work that way. And then the other part is, mental acuity is really important. I work with some people who have early onset, some dementia. They have early onset Parkinson's. So we work on that. We try to find ways to either reverse some of it, which is possible in the early stages, and or work with what they have and really try to prevent any type of worsening of those things. As far as finding an exercise you like, most likely, if you are more stable more confident, you have a little bit more endurance. You might go back to the pool. You might ride a bicycle again. You might start with a stationary bike, but then if it's a nice day, you might take a real bike out. So people become much more confident really quickly because they don't feel like they are worried about falling or not being successful with something.
So that is a mixture, if I understand it right, of the physical exercise, but also, yeah, the mental part, how much I really can then, yeah, change my habits, and the individual part or task, how does it fit in your life? So it's a different area. So, and what is the main thing? The habits. We are so habit animals that we have a hard time. I guess you said it also, break the pattern somehow. There's some main part in the beginning, at least.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. The breaking, people feel that they're so busy,
Mm-hmm.
and I will just give you a few examples off the top of my head. Um, I have a person who loves to read, and I have that person read at least 15 minutes while standing
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because they need to work on their balance and they just need to stand.
Mm-hmm.
And they're able to do that. I have people who stand on one foot while they're brushing their teeth.
Mm-hmm.
I have people doing sit to stand exercises, which is a hugely effective exercise. I have them do that at different places during the day because they're going to get up and down from a chair anyways. So they might as well get a little bit more out of that. Those are some really simple things. I also try to combine habits that they haven't broken in 40 years, such as people will watch, the news at 8 o'clock or at 7 or at 7:30 every night, and they will pour themselves a glass of wine before they go and watch the news. So I know they're going to do that. So before they get the wine out, we do some exercises and then they're done for the day. That kind of thing. I mean, I take some of their habits that they're going to do, and then I add, or I put something in front of it, or I put something behind it, and that seems to work quite well.
That's the start, if I understand it, just to break the pattern, and then step by step, you increase the exercises to bring people to a different level.
Well, I think there's a lot of people that feel unstable, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore they stop exercising. They're just not so sure-footed. So they stop going out when if you live in a climate like in Switzerland, for example, when it's wet outside and slippery, they stop going out.
Yeah.
When it's snowy, they completely don't go out, or when it's icy. We also have climates like that in the United States. So that's one thing. So people stop doing things because and COVID showed us that very much. I mean, the decline in function in people was outrageous after the COVID lockdown because people did so much more sitting.
Mm-hmm.
So to get people confident that they can do things that even are daily habits, that's a good thing. People that like to go to the grocery store, I just have them walk around the perimeter of the grocery store 3 more times.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. I mean, so there are ways to get people stronger. And these are just the simple things, right? We haven't gone to the gym yet. We haven't bought a weight yet. We haven't done any of that. But now when you have a habit, people they can get out of a chair without falling back. They can get out of a chair without using their hands. They start feeling a lot more confident. They're more confident taking a shower because they don't feel like they're going to slip stepping over the bathtub if they don't have a walk-in shower. They don't need to sit down when they're cooking or chopping because they're afraid that they're going to cut their finger when they're chopping things. All these things might seem very silly to a lot of the listeners, but if you look into your surroundings and your friends, you will notice that people are doing these things.
Oh yeah,
And
I just can look in the mirror and simple. And when I was 32, I had a back surgery. It was the disc topic, and the doctor says, "See you next year." I said, "Why?" "Oh, they all come back next year." So I had the virus in my head. "Oh, don't do sports, be careful," and everything. So stop doing this. And then later, doctor, "Yeah, you're old and you need to live with it." So it is also, okay, now I'm in a need and try to keep it and have this idea. And I guess we all grow up mainly in the Western world. If you grow older, it goes down, it goes down, it goes down. And changing this belief and experimenting and then getting hope again, or a positive attitude. Oh, now I can do something what I couldn't do yesterday. Oh, maybe I can do more tomorrow. And that
Right.
changes a lot.
And setting small goals,
Yeah.
so, people that the greatest thing is, when you have someone that has a dog, but
Hmm.
then they're like, I have to start walking because
Yes.
of my
Yeah.
dog, not
Yeah.
because of them, but because of the dog.
Yeah.
So I optimize that. I have a client like that as well, and she now has signed up for a 10K.
Hmm.
So she went and signed up for a fun walk, which was about 3 miles, and then no, maybe two, and then she signed up for a 5K, which is 3 miles, and then she got a t-shirt.
Hmm.
And she was so happy about her t-shirt. And now the big thing is she has signed up for a 10K in a couple of months. And she's like, "Do you think I can do this? Do you think I can do this?" Now, I tell you, this was a woman that could not get out of a chair without pushing with both hands on the chair, and was taking, by the way, now 6 months later, is also taking less diabetic medicine, is feeling her feet a little bit more, and is just so much more confident. And I think we need to go back to empowering people to do things. And you brought it up earlier. You were talking about the white coat syndrome. And, when people tell you to do XYZ, there's a very big fear-based syndrome in the white coat.
Hmm.
And that is something that I would like to strip away. And part of it is because, I wear a white coat sometimes too. I do have a medical degree, but I always will come in and I will tell people, you can do better. You need to start moving, and you need to not be afraid of doing this.
Hmm.
I rather have people, my dream would be that every nursing home in the Western world would get rid of their wheelchairs
Yeah.
and only have them for really truly impaired people that need them, like stroke impaired people, or people who have had spinal cord injuries. That's a whole different theme. But purely aging, I wish they would get away from it. The reason they have it is because the medical system is fear-based, and they don't want people falling, because if they fall, then they have to fill out a lot of paperwork. However, I would like to see that changed, that people are kept moving,
Yeah.
because if people keep moving, they will fall much less. And when you empower people to do that, we are meant to be upright. We are meant to move reciprocally. That is also very, very good for our brain, our memory,
I think that is
and
also a very important part, the memory. Yeah.
our memory is directly linked to how much reciprocal motion we do.
Yes.
One of the benefits of reciprocal motion is decrease in dementia onset and progression of dementia. Also, with people who have Parkinson's and other neurodegenerative issues, keeping people moving reciprocally is so, so, so important. And you can do it, being in one place. You can do it while you're walking. You can do it in a pool. There's just so many options on that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Anyway, you can say in the Western world, the whole system is not really about empowering people. Insurance and everything, what you mentioned is they're important, but I think it's not only the wheelchair. I'm also against this walker, because most people bending over and learn to, and there are crutches like Nordic walking, or you could walk totally different and safe. But that is not what we do. When you mention memory, I wasn't just thinking about how can I remember what I ate yesterday, but also in the body, the cell memory, because what I experienced, not moving, not training, my system forgot what to do. When you mentioned balance, and how do I do this? How do I walk? And really needed to learn and reconnect somehow some things that, what is it? My brain tells my feet or whatever what to do. It was disconnected somehow.
100%. And so that is, one of my favorite things I have people do is I put my hands out so they can hold on if they want to, and then I have them jump.
Jump.
And they look at me like, what do you mean jump?
Yeah.
They forgot how to do that.
Yes.
And to just, little things like that, it's a big deal. It's so cellular memory. We're back to the cell.
Can I just, sorry, I'm interrupting, but this is a question I had in my mind. Why, growing older, I'm not jumping anymore? It's just the weight. It can't be really the weight, because I see people who have more weight and they are jumping. So what is it in me that I'm not easily jumping?
Well, so it goes back to that memory that you're talking about, but it's a cell memory. And it is, so you don't do it, and you're not keeping that, you're not jumping in any way, right? You're not jumping off a diving board, you're not jumping over, you're not skipping down the street, you're not dancing on the dance floor maybe as much. So none of the movement that you're doing is in more of the power group, where you're combining strength and speed. And so, because everything is much slower, you're probably not playing tennis. If somebody is playing tennis, or in the United States now, there's this big craze about pickleball. And as much as I see lots of injuries from it, I'm a huge fan for people doing it, because it brings community together, but it also gets people moving at a faster rate. And so it's all a good thing. But, our cells regenerate somewhere between 28 and like 50 days, between 28 and 50 days, and depending on what cell it is, and they give onward their memory, right? It becomes another cell. So if you haven't done something for 3 years, you really truly don't have that cellular memory anymore. And it's really difficult to just do it. That doesn't mean you can't relearn it. And you can relearn it because somewhere in your cortex, in our motor system, it can teach us how to do it, because we did it when we were younger, we did it when we were children, and we can visualize it, and we can reteach people how to do that. And, I work a lot with reactions. I work a lot with balls or rubber bands and things like that to get some of that power and that speed play going with coordination type exercises.
So that is an interesting point, which I never thought about it. The newborn baby has no clue how to jump. They just learn to jump. Okay, well, if you understand that, they learn to jump. I can learn with new cells, also teach them to jump again. So what is the limit in old age if there is nothing really broken? So I could maybe one day jump again.
Absolutely. So if nothing is broken, what we're talking about these days are, in research, they're starting to look not at Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, cardiac diseases. They're not looking at those individually anymore. They're kind of starting to call it the aging disease. And if you can stay away from that. And the reason why is it's rare that you have one without the other. And it's basically just a degeneration of cellular structure and cellular function. And then it manifests into, these particular diseases, maybe one a little bit more than another, maybe because there was a genetic predisposition, maybe just because, maybe because of an environmental influence, all of that. But when you look at a system that is healthy and you don't have those diseases, then, it's really about having muscular structure and range of motion. Those are the two ingredients that we need to be physically as optimal as we can be. When you have range of motion and you have muscle strength, then you can teach balance, coordination, and endurance. And when you have all those 5 things together, then you can put your skis on and be safe.
Now we talk more, let's say, about the physical part in the body. What about what do you call it? Hormones, microbiome, vitamins, and all those stuff. We know with the body posture you can change chemistry also, but what is important maybe to add when we grow older?
Well, I think that what we have learned also, this is something that is a relatively new concept in medicine, is our gut biome, our bellies.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people that have issues with their digestive system and their guts. And a lot of it is hormone triggered. It's usually cortisol driven. And can be anxiety. Well, it can be caused by anxiety or it can cause anxiety. It's sort of a two-way street.
Mm-hmm.
The connection between our gut and what happens in our brain is incredibly huge. Again, when you talk about neuroplasticity, it's for another time, but the gut is hugely important in that. The gut microbiome, if it's not normal or it has issues, it is a huge precursor for inflammation. And a general body systemic inflammatory process, even one that's just kind of underlying and just kind of there, but it's a little bit bloated, a little bit this, a little bit constipated, a little bit foggy in the head, all of that can cause a lot of it can be the basis for other diseases to sneak in, like cancer, mental illness, depression, exhaustion, fibromyalgia, all of those type of, full body inflammatory things have their root cause in an inflammatory process that is probably not dealt with and certainly is not, you cannot cure that with big pharma. You really can't. You can cure the symptoms, but not what is happening at the cellular level.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I understand you're taking a look at this as well with your clients, or is this more on the physical level?
I do, and I come about it from a perspective of not overdoing supplements and cross-supplementing. I think there is, supplements need to be taken very seriously also, because some of these supplements can cause a lot of problems also, and they can not interact well with one another. So there's a bit of a science to that. So I typically recommend that people take a really good multivitamin. I like a gut microbiome, and I like vitamin D. I'm a big fan of vitamin D. Most people, even in California, even when you have sun, you do not get enough vitamin D, and it's essential to have that in our bodies. I also am a fan of fish oil, but what needs to be understood is that, and I take a collagen supplement because I think everybody over the age of 50 should take a collagen supplement. It's to strengthen our musculoskeletal system, and it does wear as we age, especially with women pre and postmenopausal, even more accelerated. But we need to remember that all of the supplements that we take, if we take them into a body that has a high inflammatory content and or is not able to absorb because the immune system is weak, then we're kind of flushing those down the toilet. And that was why I got so interested in redox, because I actually saw people taking lots of supplements and not having any benefit from them, yet other people would take supplements and have a huge reaction to it. And I was very curious to see how that was. And so I think getting your cellular structure as healthy as you can, your immune system as healthy as you can, and then properly supplementing, I think that's a good way to go. And when that is done well and things are absorbed, then you probably are able to get away with less big pharma.
No, I'm interested in how do you work? You said, oh, you go to your clients around the globe, so you're traveling around the globe?
Well, I do travel around the globe. I do like that. And if I happen to be in a place where somebody is, then I will meet with them in person. Sometimes that works out really nice because, we go to a gym and we do some things that way. But typically I do Zoom consultations with people. However, I also have this other hat, the one with the white jacket, where I still am working in the medical profession as a physical therapist. And when I have that hat on, I actually, at this point, see people in their home. I work in home health. So that's what I do.
Yeah.
But I also have, if it's somebody who is local, who has aches and pains, then I will see them in my private business, and I will see them one-on-one.
Well, that's more in California then.
Yes, but what we're talking about here, the global strategy of aging well and how to get people moving, I don't need to be touching you. That's quite rare. It's typically getting people on a really good program, and it's about that piece of empowerment that people can do it themselves, and they need to do it themselves.
Yeah. So what is your ideal client? Age up well, so you want to have a special age?
I say I see patients 50 plus. I do have a couple patients that are a little bit younger, but they've had a bit of a rough start and they really want to clean up their situation and their strength and maybe lose weight and just get healthier. Or they might have been diagnosed with something a little bit ugly that they're recovering from. So they want to change things up and get better. So I do have some people that are a little bit younger, but I have to think real quick. I think my oldest client is 94.
So far, yes.
Yeah, but well, I've had a client that was 107.
Yeah.
However, my favorite person is a motivated person, irregardless of age.
Yes. Otherwise, anyway, you can't do, like you say, you can bring the horse to the water, but if it doesn't want to drink,
make it drink.
Yeah, that's not possible.
Right.
If someone wants to reach you, what is the best way to reach you?
The best way to reach me is I have a webpage that's ageupwell.com, or you can reach me through LinkedIn. That's how we found each other. And I'm Arlette Godges. Or you can email me at arlette@ageupwell.com.
Super. So I wish more and more people will be interested in aging up well, because like I said, we have in our mind still maybe the 60-year-old we saw in our childhood. But luckily with YouTube or internet, we see so much more 80-year-old bodybuilders and younger people. And my biggest aha when I was the first time in Florida in the 80s, I flew to Florida. And the biggest aha is that there were 80-year-old people dressed colorful. That was a mind shift for the German, who really only knew people in gray and black at that time. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing, and what we have not touched on, maybe we can save that for another time too, but is happiness,
Yes.
right? What brings happiness to people and how does that affect their health and their well-being? And that's a hugely important thing. And color is one of them, although I'm wearing a black shirt and so are you.
Yeah.
That's relatively rare.
But at the golden times for yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So, but thank you so much for having me. I really
Thank
enjoyed
you,
this.
Arlette. Wonderful talk, and hope we inspired people that really you can, whatever situation you're, which age you are, it's always possible to level up, age up well, super, super well. And yeah, be inspired.